Hello kitties, it's terrible triple feature time once again. We are still in the great month of October. I'm up to about 30 or so horror movies watched and picking up speed because I'm just not leaving the house unless it's absolutely necessary. And why would it be necessary in October when there are horror movies to watch? It's all just, terribly vicious cycle. This week my recommendations for you go back to that halcyon era of the 1980s. We're going to be looking at 80s children versus vampires. Our menu includes Monster Squad, The Lost Boys, and Fright Night. We're going to be going in order of the age of the kids from youngest to oldest. So we're going to start with the Monster Squad, which predominantly features elementary school kids and at the most has a middle schooler on the team and, the scary German guy. Monster Squad is essentially the horror movie version of the Goonies, whereas the Goonies was action, adventure, swashbuckling, and pirates. This is all Universal monsters, and oh my god, it is just as much fun. This movie pretty much tanked at the box office, but I, like everybody else, found it on video cassette when I was a child and just loved it forever. The premise is essentially there's a club of horror movie loving kids, and lo and behold, the Universal monsters actually come to their town to set up the end of the world. These feature Dracula, the Frankenstein monster, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and the Gill Man, version of the creature from the Black Lagoon. And since none of the adults will believe them, which is a recurring theme in all three movies, it is up to the kids to take matters into their own hands and save everyone. Most of them are actually taken out by the resident badass Rudy. You can tell he's a badass because not only does he smoke on his bicycle, but he has a leather jacket. Written and directed by Fred Decker. He is a buddy of Shane Black. I think Shane Black actually helped with the writing a little bit. And Fred Decker had previously done Night of the Creeps, which is a really good 80s monster movie with Tom Atkins. They use all of the monsters to great effect. And they all featured updates to their look from the Stan Winston Creature Shop. Stan Winston being the genius behind like the Predator monsters, the Terminator robot, and actually as a gag, they when they were developing the look of the Wolfman for this one, they used a base that was basically Stan Winston's face, and they just made a wolf out of that. So that's why the Wolfman has a bit of a truncated muzzle. Really great actors in it. You won't know it because he's covered in makeup, but Frankenstein's monster is played by Tom Noonan, who you've seen in a number of things like Manhunter, and it's fun that as Frankenstein, the Frankenstein monster, he's dramatically less scary in this movie than in just about anything else he's ever done, because he's just scary. The real star of the movie is Duncan Regehr as Dracula. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this is probably my favorite version of Dracula. Don't get me wrong, Gary Oldman's Dracula is incredible, but this Dracula is just the man. Try to imagine all the confidence, self-assuredness, and just general suaveness of Bela Lugosi, but now actually give him superpowers. He's pretty much unstoppable, and he walks around like he knows it. For one, he walks. He's never running. He's never in a hurry. He's just leisurely pacing about and murdering people. He doesn't fall victim to any sort of, self-imposed kids' movie screw-ups that end up saving the day. The minute the Monster Squad are on his radar as an actual threat, he goes right to their clubhouse and throws dynamite in it. Yeah, kids' movie. There's this great sequence where he's just walking down Main Street when everything's going to hell, and just about the entire police force is running at him. He does not look at any of them, and yet he's dispatching them, snapping necks, beating the hell out of them, throwing them. because he's Dracula. Um, because these movies were in the 80s, there are actual threats to the kids, and some of the characters do die. I'll leave you to find out which ones they are. I don't want to spoil it. But these aren't, they're for kids. There are kids in these movies, but they're not exactly kids' movies. I think Monster Squad's the closest we get to a kiddie movie, but the stakes are still pretty high, and there's just a lot of violence. There's people being murdered, other people exploding, a lot of really great makeup effects, and just dire circumstances. And it's up to the Monster Squad to pull it all together in the end. There are several important things about The Lost Boys, not the least of which is this is the first movie with the two Coreys. This is where they've met each other and, you know, discovered a franchise in and of themselves. But it's also one of the few watchable Joel Schumacher movies. I'm not kidding. I am still completely bitter about Batman and Robin. I'm just never gonna let it go. Killed fucking Batman franchise. And yet, ironically, he did well with vampires, you know, bat-like creatures. These are 80s vampires, so they are 80s Joel Schumacher vampires, so as a result, they look like glam rock models with fangs and, you know, even higher cheekbones, led by the wonderful Kiefer Sutherland. Now, while the main thrust of the theme is this 80s children versus vampires, I was toying with having a heading of just the most badass vampires. Because as I was watching these, I noticed that these vampires in the films are completely unflappable. You really can't ruin their day. Duncan Regehr's Dracula in the previous film, and in this one, Kiefer Sutherland's David just oozes self-confidence and self-assuredness. He is able to have that haircut and walk around and say, no, you're weird. You look strange. Because this is how people are supposed to look. I mean, understand, he's a vampire who hangs out on the boardwalk and lives in a cave on the beach. Basically, sticking his finger at the sun and the natural order of things. The plot, if you don't know, Diane Wiest and her two kids, Mike and Sam, have moved in with their grandpa in Santa Carla, California, the quote-unquote murder capital of the world. And they get befriended by vampires. And by befriended, I mean tried to absorb into their clan, and they really don't want to take no for an answer. And so violence and or hijinks ensue. Sam, being a fashion victim / comic book aficionado, enlists the help of local comic book store proprietors Edgar and Alan Frog, played by Corey Feldman and some other dude. It's very stylish. I mean, don't get me wrong. Joel Schumacher, I don't like what he does most of the time, but he always does it with really great style. So it's a very slick-looking movie. Soundtrack is good. There's pretty people everywhere. There's a black cat because it's October. They're all fighting each other to try to figure out who gets to be a vampire, who doesn't get to be a vampire. And, you know, when you think about it, the plot is not that dire because it's very localized to these 10 people. Oh, and Alexander Worth? Yeah. No, Alex Winter. Yeah, Alex Winter, Bill from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in Bogus Journey, is part of the little vampire group. Like I said, the situation is dire for these people, but very little else. It's not as life and deathy as it was in the Monster Squad, ironically. In this film, we have moved up to middle schoolers, possibly freshmen in high school, and high school students. And once again, the parents do not believe anything that's going on and are unable to help them. So it's up to the kids to sneak in, steal holy water, and make garlic baths and goofy steaks and everything. And I mean, it's The Lost Boys. If you haven't seen it, I don't know what rock you've been living under. It's also features one of my absolute favorite lines in any film when Sam realizes that Mike is turning into a vampire. He storms upstairs going, I don't believe it. My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. Well, you just wait till Mom finds out. And I sort of miss Corey Haim because he just delivers it with such panache and in just the stupidest bathrobe. It was not an easy feat, but the kid pulled it off. It's sort of a shame. Finally, we have the original '80s Fright Night, which is it's better than the remake. Don't get me wrong, the remake was pretty good. I think it was cast well, and they didn't try to do a straight, just shot for shot everything. They changed some stuff up and made it its own movie. But the first one is just better, predominantly because of this man, Chris Sarandon. Whereas, Duncan Regehr and Kiefer Sutherland oozed self-confidence, this guy radiates self-assuredness. Half of the movie, he just has this look on his face when he's interacting with anybody of just complete amusement. You know what? You are adorable. Now I'm going to eat you, because Chris Sarandon is our vampire. He's Jerry Dandridge, who has recently moved to the suburbs next door to William Ragsdale of Herman's Head, playing Charlie's neighborhood. He spots Jerry in the middle of his vampire activities, and then rushes to try to tell everybody that he's got a vampire living next door. Charlie is in high school, as are all of his friends, played Evil Ed and Amy, played by Amanda Beers of Married with Children fame. Charlie likes horror movies, so nobody takes him seriously. And as a result, everybody's in a lot of danger because Jerry is totally a vampire. And he's not going to mess around if somebody's going to endanger his safety, security, or supply of fresh fruit. For a vampire, he eats a lot of fresh fruit. It's really a lot of fun because of Sarandon. Sarandon, really great actor. If you haven't seen Dog Day Afternoon, you should see it. He's in it for like 10 minutes, and he got nominated for an Academy Award for it because it's an incredible 10 minutes. Us internet people will know him more as Prince Humperdinck from The Princess Bride and the speaking voice for Jack Skellington in A Nightmare Before Christmas. Danny Elfman was the singing voice. And he also had a cameo in the remake of Fright Night as the poor bastard that gets killed by Colin Farrell on the highway. In this one, Charlie enlists the help of local late-night horror movie host Peter Vincent, played by the always delightful Roddy McDowall. Peter Vincent, the name is kind of an homage to the old Hammer movies, of which Roddy McDowall was in a couple. Peter Vincent, Peter for Peter Cushing, and Vincent for Vincent Price. And once Chris Sarandon is able to turn Evil Ed to actually being evil and a vampire and steal Charlie's girlfriend away with the power of vampire dance, which I explored in one of my earlier triple features, Vampires and Dancing, which was Fright Night, Vampire in Brooklyn, and Blade the First. It's up to Charlie and Peter to stop Jerry's reign of vampiric terror. Once again, the stakes actually probably even smaller than Lost Boys because it's just one vampire and his ghoul and, maybe Evil Ed. And, but it's got a lot of charm to it. It's very, very 80s, which was good. Chris Sarandon just chews the scenery so good. I can't say enough about him, and everybody else in the cast, Roddy McDowall, Amanda Beers, looking really unlike her character in Married with Children. Really, really hot in this movie. But yeah, these are 3 movies where kids in the 80s have to fight vampires. Maybe I'll look for other themes in other decades. Maybe we'll be able to pull that off. But in the meantime, watch Monster Squad, The Lost Boys, and Fright Night together or separately. You should just watch these movies because they're awesome. I will see you next week for even more horror movie goodness. See you later.